Going into the topic of suffering, yeah. So this is a big point. Is I think a lot of people, they think mental suffering is real, but it's entirely imagined. Like physical suffering is real, but mental suffering is entirely a choice. Like we can suffer mentally if we believe truly that we've been hurt, defeated, or are beyond growth and change. And so a good I don't know if it's you would say a metaphor for this, but it's like even if the tree falls in the forest but no one is around to hear the thud, the noise of the thud still happens. Meaning the change and the growth of the person still occurs even if the people who might have kicked you out of their life or whatever are not around to have seen it. And then I think also those who are trying their hardest to escape suffering will end up suffering the most because they're running from things instead of confronting them head on, if that makes sense.
Yep. Yep. Have you broken yourself free from suffering?
Yeah, I would say about see, here's the thing, man. It's like even for the most enlightened beings, I would say it's still super easy to allow ourselves to fall into unconscious patterns of suffering even if we know these things, like logically we know these. But like I would say when I'm fully in my crown chakra, when I'm fully just meditating, I'm in a surrender kind of state. Yes. But when I come back to reality and I have to do a lot of things, it can be very easy to absorb and become unconscious that I'm suffering in the moment, if that makes sense. Like it's easy for anyone. I think even the most enlightened masters and people to, because there's a good quote from one master, like his child died and he was in an ashram or somewhere and his child died and his followers came to his rescue to help him and they caught him in agony, crying, suffering the greatest any human being can suffer. And they were like, but master, I thought you told us all suffering is an illusion. And he said, yes, but this is the greatest illusion of them all, referring to his son passing away. Yeah. So I think no one is beyond reproach. I think everyone has the ability to suffer, but it's in also like forgiving yourself is a big part of it, I believe, and not believing yourself to be like beneath dirt. Like even if other people may have seen that, that we don't know what goes on in their heads too. There can be people who hate us, love us, but there's something entirely different under the surface. Like you may have a friend who, they're always kind and giving, but under the surface, maybe they're just really depressed and looking for validation, and then people who are the opposite and vice versa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
That was
If you have any questions or you want to throw some stuff in,
that was a good story you brought up of the Zen master.
thank you.
So how do people stop suffering?
I think, well, not I think, I know. I don't want to say I think because that's not a good term. And then good is a concept as well. But suffering itself, physically, it's impossible. You can never stop physical suffering 100%. It's entirely impossible. You there is no superhuman. We're all gonna die someday. You may be able to prolong your life by hundreds of years or whatever it is, but you're still gonna die. You're still gonna bang your big toe on the edge of the bed. Like you're still gonna get sick. But I think as far as mental suffering goes, I think these come in waves and patterns. And to see that in yourself is step one. To be able to see that this is occurring inside of you, and then to go to the source of that and look at why. And once you see the why, you can start to forgive not just yourself but others, because you can realize that these unconscious habits are things you've also seen in other people, and you know that they've did you wrong, and you know that you've done other people wrong, And I think true growth is also in breaking this pattern of I'm better than other people and everyone else is wrong, or people who are constantly angry. I think Sadhguru said in like a past lifetime or something, he was constantly angry, but for no reason. He was upset at the world, and it's like it was that feeling itself that was bringing on the suffering, but not necessarily the events that are happening. So he's allowing himself to suffer, like he's allowing it. He's more than aware of it. Trying to think if there's anything else. Surrender. Yeah, surrender, reverence, true reverence for human beings. That's a big one. To have true reverence, meaning it goes beyond what you want or what you desire. It's more of no matter if that other being is suffering or they're at their peak, you're in true acceptance and unconditional love for them. And to a certain extent, obviously, if there's abuse, like it's a Milarepa situation where you're meeting a killer and he wants to kill you or he wants to harm you, or he just wants to throw obscene things in your face and just not stop. It goes for hours, longer than the time you have to deal with that person. That's a little bit different. But to actually revere people and not harbor any kind of what is it, deep hatred for people, contempt, like to take a step back even when you notice yourself receiving that awareness in yourself, like I'm starting to grow contempt, true hatred for this person. Taking a step back from the brink of that, because too that these things only control your inner self as well, your inner chemistry. It ends up leading the thought patterns that you adopt, and then it's just all in the mind too. And a lot of people say like discard the mind. Yes, but meaning discard the parts of the mind that are not conducive to life around you and yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, and dude, it's difficult, man. Like we're going through a full cycle of change with consciousness and human beings, and we're just touching like the start of actual awareness in humans. Like we haven't even had enough time to evolve ourselves. So it's a wild world out there, brother. It's gonna take I think it's gonna take still thousands of years, millions of years.
Hmm. Do you
But
have
we're
anything else?
definitely growing.
What else do you want to share?
My bad. Go ahead. You were gonna say something.
Yeah, what else do you want to share here?
Yeah. So let me find another one. Okay, this is a good one. After dissolving ego entirely, we can then not learn to live without one, because then how would you put food in your mouth? How would you work a stable job, care for people who need you in their lives, but begin to adopt a healthier ego that is more beneficial for ourselves and those around us, the life around us. And then I would also say suffering through the form of not forgiving ourselves and others can unknowingly be a feeling that we bring upon ourselves. It's unconscious instead of its healthier counterparts, which would be empathy towards yourself, sympathy towards others, and true sympathy. Like I would say, if you're at an unconscious level where you haven't had enough time to introspect about these things, you're going to go about it like a child. You're going to say, "Oh, okay, I get it," but you're really not going to understand. You're not going to give true sympathy to someone and with your heart. It's just going to be something you say to get the other person off your back. I think that's wrong. And also to make ourselves suffer is counterintuitive to life, because we're also a piece of life worthy of spiritual ecstasy. And I think it's true reverence, and it's truly noble to nurture another life and show genuine compassion. But when it isn't possible due to uncontrollable circumstances, generally most beings aren't able to accept that suffering due to their attachment instead of moving on and living in the present moment. So they suffer because of their attachment. And it's like something that life throws at you, you can't do anything about it. You lose a wheel on your car. Oh, okay, what am I gonna do? I call a tow truck. You're not just gonna sit there and just like you can cry about it for hours, but it's gonna solve nothing. And people live this way unconsciously for years, and then they may never get it. And so like this is why we're imparting this information on to people, because it can be also a very lower animalistic tendency, because obviously human being has the lower and the higher brain, and this is something that's not seen in different life forms, animals, and different things with a lower awareness because of their biology. But it's like what we were talking about in the last video with the chicken and the egg. The chicken, it suffers not because the egg was taken from it, but because the chicken allows itself to suffer unconsciously. It doesn't have the mental capability to see these things like a human being does. And, all praise to Adiyogi and Shiva and all these beings, Buddha, Jesus, everyone who showed the true wisdom through their mechanism, through their vessel, through the human being that they are. Um, they realize that you can't control the uncontrollable situation, that the reality around us has manifested. There's only so many things we can control. And then when you start to see things that way, it's like, wow, I also realize that if I die tomorrow, insurance companies say that people will only remember you for 4 to 6 weeks after your death. You are so insignificant, so small, such a speck in the infinity that is this cosmic world, that you deserve everything to happen for your life that you desire. And it's more like, if the desire is harming you, making you go mental or insane, then it's because you're letting the desire control the other aspects of your life, like relationships and different things, friendships. But it's you also are such an insignificant speck, but you're everything in this small speck as well. You're like an infinite vastness of the cosmos in one human being, that you deserve to experience everything about your life that you believe you deserve to experience. And I believe that about everyone, because it's like a good quote from Buddha said, like, basically, if you're a killer, you can become a saint. If you're a saint, you can become a killer. There's the dualities of reality, and not no one is beyond complete contempt or compassion. I think everyone is learning at their own pace, and more times than not, most people are not genuine psychopaths. And there's specific categories for these kind of people as well. But if he was able to change a psychopath to a man of compassion and wisdom, then I think that speaks for the level of awareness people like us are at. Is that, with going back to the chicken, the maternal tendency to protect makes the chicken feel like it failed when the egg is taken away from it, only because it doesn't know any better. Just like the man who lacks wisdom and insight into true love, compassion, and understanding. He's stuck in just toxic patterns without knowing he is. Because even us masters can fall back into that stuff too. We can begin to overindulge in sex, overindulge in drugs, overindulge in gossip, or whatever it is. And then there's not a healthy balance. It's like, if it's warranted for the moment, do it. But now we know that only because we know after gaining that higher insight. So I think that if everyone just tries their best to make themselves and the world around them a little bit better every single day and learn from these things, you could take 50 years worth of living and understanding and condense it into like 15, maybe less, and that would definitely progress you on your spiritual journey way faster, and you'd be able to not just help more people, but also stop yourself from suffering even when those waves come through.
Yes.
Yeah.
So would you say that stopping yourself from suffering is enlightenment?
I would say that when you know how not to suffer, you may still allow yourself to suffer out of reverence for other people. You may allow yourself to feel their suffering on a sympathetic level, an empathetic level, because these relationships in your life mean that much to you, or maybe you just have that genuine reverence for humanity in general, and that's true. That's truth. And I think truth even transcends enlightenment, because enlightenment is just a term to describe people who have learned not to suffer and unlock a different kind of energy in their body and expand it to its max potential. So I think that enlightenment, yes, is stopping suffering completely inside yourself and helping that come about through other people as well. But they may not want that. So then you just have to try your best to, be empathetic to them and try to revere. But also, I don't believe in people wasting their life on other people if it's not conducive to their own growth or just mental health. Like relationships can be the biggest killer of enlightened beings, because when you put all your devotion, and we can call it bhakti, towards another human being, it's almost like you're putting them above yourself. You're looking up to them. But with an enlightened person, obviously, me and you know this, you don't want to look down or look up to anyone. You just want to look level with them, because that stops the suffering within you.
Okay, let's finish this. So tell me some closing statement or final thought. What's the most potent thing you can share with us?
Right. And then thanks again for having me on, my friend. All right, last thing. Here we go. Okay, yeah. So I wanted to speak on, I forgot his name, but I was watching the video the other night. It was you talking with the heavier set man, really, really wise guy. He had a lot of good wisdom, and I was listening to you guys talk. And he said that enlightenment is non-causal. I agree, yes, but I also disagree in one aspect. You have to perform the work. You have to, like it says, the greatest journey starts with a single step. You have to walk the path. If you don't walk the path, physically, you're not going to attain. So, thought is causal, enlightenment is both causal and non causal. There are those who attain awakening simply through non causally allowing the thought to stop, and then the energy just awakens without them having to do anything, because they've taken the physical steps necessary first. But then there are those who can stop thinking, but they can't awaken because they haven't done anything causal with this physical being yet. They haven't experienced life. They haven't done anything of substance towards this piece of life. So they can't do it. It's like being very, very gullible and naive and what's the word? Those are harsh words. I don't want to say that. I would say more like, it's like when you look at a child and they're like very what's the word? Oh man.
Innocent?
Innocent. There you go. Innocent. It's like you're very innocent like a child, but you're not enlightened because you haven't even gone through the journey to overcome your lowered tendencies yet. You haven't been there yet to see the anger rise in you, to feel the contempt, to feel the hatred, all those things, and overcome those. And then even more so, overcoming temporary illusions like of perceived joy and this and that, because if you're stuck on enlightenment as well, on always being in constant joy and ecstasy, then when it doesn't arrive or it doesn't come for you, it'll break you so quick. It'll break you just like that. So you also got to like learn to be happy. And this is speaking for everyone. I'm not telling you directly. I'm just, everyone listening to our YouTube. So you have to be totally okay with reaching down into the mud as well to grow your seed back up to the sun. So not just gaining the wisdom, but also doing the right things in reality, like taking care of your body, working out. And this is not lifting weights for egoistic purposes to look strong, look more swole. Not at all. I mean like cardio, like running, high intensity to get your energy flowing, Mopai breathing techniques, pranayama, eating vegetables like the sattvic foods, like we were talking about in the first video, all that stuff, and fasting as well. Like I always like to say that controlling the tongue is way better than just trying to control your sexual nature because we're gonna procreate anyways. But it's like the true brahmacharya is when these animalistic tendencies and patterns lose their control over you, is you can just do brahmacharya whenever because you're not transfixed on getting it. You're not like, oh, I need sex right now, right now, right now, I need to fuck right now, like every second of the day. You're not stuck in that mode. But like obviously when you see the beautiful lady come and she gets naked, you do it. And then it's entirely normal. But then also, this is my last point, my bad, I'm speaking too long. um Vitamins is a big thing. Vitamins, like, we so much mental depression and all this stuff going on in today's world is due to vitamin deficiencies, and no one knows it, so much of it. But I guess that's my last point, brother. Good talking. And if you want to add some things, or we can just close out.
Yeah, on that note, I'm gonna take some vitamin D. Thanks
Hell
for
yeah.
mentioning that. And
And
yes, appreciate you joining us. Thank you for sharing your insight, and we'll see you again next time soon.
all right, see you soon.